Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Sunday, November 16th, 2025, and today I'm going to start a new series. I don't know how many videos it'll be. It'll be several, but it's going to be about like drawing heads from imagination, but also from reference, but ultimately the goal is to be able to draw heads from imagination. So I'll just put that, and this will be kind of an intro to the series. I wanted to do this because I had a good question from like one of the comments talking about or asking about the forms of the head and stuff like that. So there's proportions. So these are the basics. So there's proportions, there's like shapes, and then the forms. They come up all the time, and they're incredibly important, especially for drawing from imagination. And it just depends on like the approach you want to take. So let's say that on one end of the spectrum is the idea of like shapes. So for example, let's do like a very like stylized face. So it's mostly like the shape. And same with like the nose. Now the next thing would be like the proportions. So like where's the nose go? So we'll just put it right here. And then so let's say that this is half, and then let's just put this, the nose right here, and then the mouth down here. So that's proportion. And so you can, this I call like cartoony, or more like animation kind of thing, because it's easier to animate and I draw, like redraw it. So there's not so much about the forms, it's more about like the shapes. So these are just shapes, and I like it. So it's just an example. Then the other thing is, I mentioned, so if you're just kind of drawing sort of these more cartoony looking heads or faces, it's really more about like the proportion and then the shape. So like the triangular, like more square right here, like in the middle. Like if I were to draw that again, so let's do that again. So this one is more square shape, so I'm just going to draw kind of a square shape. And then the nose is kind of right here. And you can just use the construction lines if you want. I mean, nothing wrong with that. And then just, but yeah, you would just kind of adjust the shape. Yeah, I mainly thought about the proportion and the shape, like when I did that. And then if you're looking at like a photo, I would see if you could, I mean, if you exaggerate it, it'll look like a caricature. So yeah, I would just kind of keep simplifying it. But that's like shape. And then moving to like form. And it just depends. So for example, from this front view, the shape sort of is the big thing, kind of like with the profile. Shapes are kind of like the big thing. So an example is in a profile, the shape could be maybe like this, and it looks different. Like, it's interesting, like how like the front and like a profile can look pretty different. Like if you look at like people's profiles and stuff, that's what's good about like the front view and like a side view, is like the shape is the main thing. That's why I wanted to do a series. There's a lot to it, but there's also a lot of like basic stuff that will help. You have to just draw a lot of, draw a lot of characters, and then look at a lot of photos, and then draw from photos, and then also just kind of constantly sort of think about how you would draw like people. So like form, for example, tends to come up a lot like in different angles, like the 3/4 view, for example. But there's also kind of like basic shapes also. So like, let's say like I don't know what character I'm going to draw. So the basic shape of it is kind of an oval. Or you could go for a circle if the oval's kind of difficult. Like that's just, it doesn't really matter, but it's just whatever. Like for example, like the oval is good for if I'm not sure like what the character looks like. The circle is good for if I'm just not sure at all and I just want to hurry up and just put like, let myself know that there's like a head of a character. So if I'm just kind of like posing a character real quick, or it's the same difference here. So that's like the shape. Then you can start to think about like kind of like the form. So let's say that we'll stick with kind of this character, like what would be the form of that. So one is that there's a blockiness to it, it's more square. So some characters, if it's like very square, it would be better to just go ahead and square it off, kind of like this. Like to me, like that's more of a square. But to keep it kind of cartoony, I might not go any further than that, like with the form. However, in a 3/4 view, forms are pretty important. So you have a few different options. If you go with like this square kind of approach, then like you have to carve out the, like this, you have to carve out the, and we'll go over all of that. But and also just notice, like if you're looking at photos to draw from, so from a square you have to do like, and it just depends on the character. This will look more square, like obviously. So, but it also helps with perspective and foreshortening and stuff. So that's one way to approach it, and that's starting to add more complexity. The other way to do it would be to put the crosshair on it if you want to start with more of a circle, and then add like the square shapes. This is more of the Loomis kind of method, if you will. This is more of like the Bridgman, George Bridgman, where you start with like the block. It just depends, and you can skip some of it because it depends on if there's an actual character design or not. So here is from the circle, but then adding the planes. And here you start with the plane or the box or like the block, and then rounding it out. If I actually have a little bit more of the character, I might just draw like this. Like if I'm just going to kind of draw the character, I might just and again, we'll go into like the different forms, because that's really where a lot of this is coming from. Like the line is just describing the form. So if you have more of like the look of the character, you could just skip some of the, but it's still there. Oh, I didn't start a timer, did I? Yeah, I didn't do my little intro. I usually do like a 10-minute timer. And so I usually do like 10 minutes videos. You can see where faces are pretty, or heads are pretty interesting. And yeah, faces are a little different. I mean, like these are heads, and then a lot of times like the front view is more about like the face and stuff. It's just something to kind of practice. We'll explore it. It'll be a series, and sometimes it's kind of fun just to do these little just construct like different heads and just see what the results are, and just be willing to come up with something kind of weird, like experiment with it. But yeah, that'll be it for today. Thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine, and if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it, and until next time, keep on sketching.